What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the stream, and I'm excited to finally get my franchise started for this season. I just dropped the massive franchise fidelity to reality roster project this evening. Actually, it is now 3 o'clock in the morning as I'm recording this because I spent the entire evening finishing up the project, but I can't quite go to bed until I get this recorded. So I'm going to be running with the Kansas City Royals. I think that they are a wonderful blank slate. I think they got some really cool jerseys. The city of Kansas City is very close to my second home of Omaha, Nebraska. So I am excited to play with the Kansas City Royals. And let's go ahead and meet the squad. So let's start with the pitching staff. We've got the young 26-year-old Brady Singer, who's finally started to come into his own as a starting pitcher. I don't think he has very high potential, but I think he's going to be a strong middle of the rotation. Maybe we can get him to be more of a 2 or a 3. That would be nice. Zach Greinke's nearing the end of his career. Nice to have him back in Kansas City so he can close it out with us. Brett Keller is more of a back end rotation guy, even with that B potential. I've never been a big Brad Keller fan, mostly because he gets slapped around too much and he doesn't miss a lot of bats. Hopefully, he can have a good early start to this franchise because then he is almost out of service time. So we'd like to try to trade him for some assets if possible. Then, if we get down further, guys like Daniel Yarborough, Ryan Yarborough, Daniel Lynch. These guys are back end rotation starters for early on. Not going to expect too much out of them. And Angel Zerpa, interesting. Not a whole big strikeout guy. If you don't really strike out a lot of guys, I'm not a big fan of yours as a pitcher. I feel like guys who don't strike out a lot of guys, pitchers who don't strike out a lot of guys tend to get in a little bit more trouble during sim. So I tend to try to favor Ks per nine more so than any of the other per nine stats. Jordan Lyles, another veteran depth arm. Chris Bubik used to be a top prospect in the system along with Daniel Lynch. Both of those guys have kind of not panned out. Max Castillo, this is one of our top 30 prospects with a 77 potential. So this is a guy we're going to be monitoring early on. Might get him some work in this first season. See Alec Marsh. This is like my first time going through the Royals roster too, so I'm not necessarily that well versed in all of these guys. So I'm kind of learning on the fly with the rest of you guys. So Jonathan Bolin, he was a top prospect in this system. Let's see what his potential is. He's a 72, so he's not super great. But it's the guy we want to monitor. Jackson Coar, there's a former top prospect. He has not had a very good start to his career. See, some of the guys I want to mention don't really have any B potential guys until you get down to Ben Kerdna now here. Fastball, changeup, slider. Okay, so not too much to him. Let me know what's his potential here. 82. So that's a nice middle of the rotation starter in this roster. So that's going to be a guy we're going to have to bring along it's a little slowly. He's only 20 years old, so we can be patient with him. Other guys down here of interest, Mazzucato. Let's see, this guy might be a high C potential. Okay, 78 potential, so that's another guy we're going to want to be on the lookout for. And then what about Avili? Now, he's already 21 years old. Yeah, 74 potential. So 24 years old, he's a 56 overall. This guy, don't know if he's really going to pan out. Beckway, he's from the Yankees. He used to be in their system. He's 75. So I think we got a lot of guys who can kind of be back end rotation starters right now, but we don't have many guys who can be, well, definitely have no front end rotation starters. That's going to be like your high 80s or low 90s. But yeah, so we're going to really have to try to find some B potential guys early and often. As far as the bullpen, Dylan Coleman is pretty much maxed out on his potential. I do like his stuff, although he doesn't necessarily have tons of Ks per nine numbers. Josh Stallmount is another guy who's got pretty nasty stuff. Overall, a decent makeup. Neither of those guys is too outstanding. Aroldis Chapman's on the downturn of his career. Let's see, Amir Garrett. Cannot be an Amir Garrett fan. I might just trade him to get rid of him because I am Javier Baez through and through, and they have like the feud of feuds between those two. Carlos Hernandez, he actually made my underrated players video last year and then had a very awful season. I think he's got good stuff. So I'm curious to see how he pans out now that he's in a full-time bullpen role. But my hopes aren't too high. Let's see. Asa Lacy was a top pitching prospect for this Royals team, but he's kind of shifted more towards a relief prospect because you can see he's got some control issues with the base on balls being as loaded as it is, but he's definitely got some high-end strikeout stuff, so he might be an interesting bullpen arm going forward. Dick Lovelady, just because. Let's see. Anything else in the bullpen of interest here? Will Klein. What's Will Klein? I don't think he's going to be very high potential. 75, okay. So again, got some interesting bullpen arms, but again, nobody who's really high potential. I think Asa Lacy might be high C. Yeah, so he's almost a beast. So that's probably the only bullpen arm that is truly intriguing going forward. And then we got Scott Barlow as our closer. I mean, this guy's a pretty good pitcher, but we're going to look to move on from him early because he's a nice trade asset, and we want to try to stack up and build up this farm system. Salvi Perez is going to be another guy we trade early on. He's been an outstanding offensive catcher his entire career, but if you look at those defensive numbers, whew, they're bad. 40 is actually the lowest that I allow on fielding. He's actually less than that, but 40 is like the minimum I have for fielders. So he's very bad, but he's an awesome offensive catcher. But because he's so good offensively, you can really trade him to anybody who just needs somebody to stick in the DH or put at first base or whatever. So MJ Melendez is a guy to monitor. Kind of got a weird makeup of he actually has way better contact. He actually hits lefties better than righties as a left-handed hitter, so that's kind of interesting. Another guy who's not great at, great at defense. That blocking rating, I just noticed that is 15. I'm going to have to up that to 40 as well. That's something that I missed during my auditing process, but not too big of a deal. Nothing else really to speak of at the catcher position there. Vinny Pasquantino is somebody that I am Pasquantino. I don't even know how to say that. It's very Italian, though, so I appreciate that. This is a guy I'm excited about in this franchise. He had a decent rookie year, as you can see. Actually, really solid rookie year, so I'm excited to see what he can do at the plate going forward. He's already 25 years old, but I think he's got low B potential, like 81 or something. Oh, oh wow, where did that come from? Sorry about that. He's got 83 potential, so this is a guy who could become a staple in the middle of our lineup. Nick Prado is a guy, let's see what potential. He's only 24 years old. He's got big-time power. What's his potential? Also, he's got 78 potential, so this is another guy to kind of monitor going forward. So a couple of nice left-handed bats here that we could intriguingly use going forward as we start out. Michael Massey. See, what's his potential? He didn't have really good numbers his first season, but he's a 79 potential. So far, liking how the infield's shaking out. Not somebody I want to rely on long term. I'd like somebody a little bit better than him, but not bad. Not bad. Matt Duffy is a nice little bench piece. Play a few infield positions. Third base is going to need some work. We do have Caden Wallace here. Wonder how high his potential is. So 82. So again, nothing too elite. Got some decent prospects here, but guys who are just maybe slightly above average in that low 80s. But nobody really creeping up above 85. Definitely nobody in those 90s range, except for the big shortstop Bobby Witt. Now he's got, I think it's like 94 potential. Yeah, he does have 94 potential. So we are looking to build for the long term around Bobby Witt as he turns into a superstar. Hopefully in like 3 or 4 years. Usually when I start my franchises, by the 4th year is when I want to make the playoffs. So by that 4th year, he'll be entering about his 5th year of MLB service time, and he'll be looking at probably getting a very lucrative extension at that point. But I'm hoping he turns into a bona fide stud. Michael Garcia is very good defensively, so he might displace Witt to the corner at third base, which is fine because he's got a strong enough arm. We'll see how Garcia develops. He's kind of a soft hitting guy, but he does have 79 potential, so that's an interesting thing to monitor going forward. Nicky Lopez is also an elite defender, so I might consider playing Bobby Witt at third base and then maybe just keeping him there long term. We'll just see how things shake out with our roster. Moving to the outfield, I think the outfield is pretty weak here except for Gavin Cross in right field. Kyle Isbell was a top prospect at one point. He might still have semi-decent potential. Okay, only 75, so not great. Edward Olivares, Tucker Bradley, okay. Drew Waters, this is a guy who used to be in the Braves organization, if I'm not mistaken. He did have a solid rookie year. Is he 79 potential? He's 78, but still decent. So again, as I'm going through this, I'm seeing a lot of guys with decent potential. I mean, the average player is about a 76 overall, so maybe just slightly above average in those 77, 78, 79 regions. So that's stuff. Those are things you can kind of play with, but if you really want to win titles, you're going to need to get a lot better than that. So let's see. Nobody else really to speak of in center field. Well, Diego Hernandez. Let's see what he is. Only 75 potential. So, and then the last guy I want to look at is going to be Gavin Cross. We'll look at him in a second. Oh, we do have Tyler Gentry. I'll look at him as well. And then Franmil Reyes, big time power bat. Not great last year, but he did have a couple of good years from 2019 through 2021. So he'll be a nice guy to have on our team early on. Although we got a few guys, Reyes, Pasquantino, and Prado, who are all kind of DHs, so that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Let's see what Gentry's potential is. So he's 77, another guy in that 77 to 79 range. But Gavin Cross, this is probably our top prospect, 86 potential. So this might be the only guy who has that upper 80s potential, and he's still more near that mid range. But so this is going to be the guy that we want to kind of develop. Maybe get him up late of the second season is probably what we're going to be looking to do. Let's go take a look real quick at potentials. Yep, it looks like Gavin Cross is going to be our top prospect with the 86 potential because Bobby Witt is, well, he's not a prospect anymore. He's a full-blown MLB player at this point. Let me pull up the top prospects and see. I'm pretty sure looking at this that it's probably Gavin Cross who's the top prospect, and it is Gavin Cross. Let's see, the top 5 prospects, according to MLB Pipeline, is Gavin Cross, who has an ETA of 2025. So like I said, that would be, well, I would like to get him up maybe tail end of next year. We'll see. Ben Kerdna, that is going to be the number 2 prospect. Michael Garcia, he is the 3rd. As you can see, our 3rd prospect only has 79 potential. Nick Lofton, I don't remember where I saw him. Oh, there he is in center field. So he is the 4th prospect. So let's see what his potential is. 77. That's not great. Yeah, that's not super great. Caden Wallace, he is our 5th. He has got... Caden Wallace, I did not look at his potential, did I? What was Caden Wallace? So he's an 82. Drew Waters is our 6th. Frank Mazzicato is our 7th. Tyler Gentry is our 8th. Angel Zerpa, right here. So he was like a 75 potential. He is our 9th. And our 10th and final top 10 prospect is Carter Jensen. It was not somebody who we looked at. 19-year-old catcher, 60 overall. Upper 70s potential? Nope, low 70s, mid 70s, 74. So, yep, he's only a 45 grade overall. So you can see that the Angel Zerpa is the 9th rated prospect, and he is a 50 grade. So this is not a very deep system. I think it's somewhere maybe in the low 20s in terms of where it's ranked on MLB Pipeline's farm system rankings. So we have a lot of work to do to build this team up. As you can see what the lineup looks like in its current state right now. Not a whole lot of impressiveness to that outside of Bobby Witt. That being said, I am excited to see what Vinny Pasquantino can do, and also a little bit interested in what Nick Pratto can bring to the table. So I think the overall synopsis of looking through the roster right now is there's some interesting guys. I think there's some prospects that I could see myself getting attached to because they're interesting. But we definitely have a lot of our work cut out for us. We're going to have to be making some very smart, intelligent moves during this first season as we try to rebuild up and restock this farm system and try to turn Kansas City into a World Series contender once again. But anyways, that's all I got for this episode. I'm going to go to bed because it's really late right now. But in the meantime, between time, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'm gone. Deuces.